There's 32 dudes laid out, bleeding out. There's already about half an inch of blood on the whole little concrete pad that we were on. The things that I began to have to deal with wasn't the killing. You know, it wasn't what war. The thing that I was completely and totally unprepared for and fucking crushed me was caring for wounded American soldiers. Like that was what got me. And so there was really, and thank God I was there. I always think it because the level of medical experience, you know, that we have, working on live tissue, like we were more experienced than most medics, you know, and but I would be in these 3 different situations that were mass casualty events to some different degree. The first one was in 2004, whenever we were out with conventional guys, and it was, there was one got killed and 8 of them were wounded, and it was just me and another operator providing medical support to him. And their medic, who was psychologically checked out at the time, not as a negative comment, but he had the freeze mode, fight, flight, freeze. He was just stuck in freeze for a little while. So we were working, and then he came to. So I was working on Americans during that time, and it was just the feeling of it, you know what I mean? And their blood on my hands and stuff. It was like, ooh. That was the reality of war to me, was American blood. And then the second one got a little bit even more intimate. It was 2004 time frame. I had a lot of significant emotional events in 2004.
What was that the invasion of Fallujah?
That was part of it. That was one of them. So in 2004, which it ties into what we're talking about, so it won't derail us too much. So in 2004, that's when everything changed. 2003 time, we were chasing the deck. Everybody's chasing the deck, and now the deck's gone or mostly gone. All the big boys are gone. And now they're talking about these foreign fighters. It's like, fuck is that? We're chasing the deck, you know what I mean? And during that time frame, other than the guys on the initial invasion, that was a lot of war that they fought, and then there was just pockets of it though after that, and a lot of times we were running around the country like with impunity, you know what I mean? Like we're doing whatever we wanted, how we wanted, and not really, really getting into like hammered by it. There was no IEDs at that time either. That was a new thing. You know what I mean? That was new. So 2004, the whole war had changed, even though it was back to Iraq. And, that was when one of my deployments started whenever they hung up the Blackwater guys. When they first hung those guys up. That was when our trip first kind of started. We were in Ramadi. And so that's where we were. So prior to the first battle of Fallujah, we were in Ramadi doing different stuff, and then there was a mass casualty event. So we're at our little base that we were at. The big base was called Junction City. There was a big Marine base, it was all that in Ramadi. And then they came over the radio. It's like, hey, anybody with medical training, come to the cache at Junction City. I was like, fuck, all right. So we go over there, and this is the surreal kind of stuff, is like, okay, they're calling for everybody. That's a full up cache. Like it's a running cache already. Like it's something ginormous. Figured they brought in a convoy or something, because you normally hear mortar fire and shit. It's Ramadi in 2004, man. It's hot. And so we're going over there. We don't really know what has happened. We're supposed to be going to the cache, but we come by this big open field and look across this open field, and there's a small crater there, and then there's 3 dudes. One guy, he's dead, and the one guy, of course, is his best friend or buddy who's doing CPR on him. And then there's somebody, the medic, that was just allowing him to continue to do that because that was obviously his best friend. And because he's dead as shit. And so we go running up there, And it was like, and we had a unit medic with us, and we actually had a few surgeons that were traveling with us. So we had God had placed the dream team for this event on top of what they already had. I'm talking like almost 3 surgeons were with us. And so that goes down. So we see that, and our medic, he understood what was going on. Like, this guy couldn't stop doing that because that's his buddy. Like, he's going to die before he stops doing that. So he grabbed him, and he's like, hey, man, he's dead. Like, I'm a medic, you know what I mean? And then the other medic took over. Hey, where's everybody else? Because this is not what they needed. Everybody. It's like everything else is at the cache. And we still hadn't known what had happened. We didn't know what had happened. So what happened is they were getting ready to do a big convoy, like to Baghdad or wherever they were going. They were, on base, in a protected area, somewhat protected area. And they were going to do a convoy brief. Hey, bring everybody in, right? They were giving a convoy brief with like 50 vehicles. I mean, it was a shit ton of dudes. So there's like 60 people in a, corralled up in a small group. And then 82 millimeter mortar lands perfectly in the middle of them. Perfectly in the middle of them. They couldn't make it up. And they didn't have they appropriately didn't have their armor on, a lot of them, because they didn't need it. You know what I mean? Like, they're in the they're where they can be. So it destroyed them. So when we got to the cache and we made the corner and came back around, there's 32 dudes laid out, bleeding out. Probably at least 10 of them are like bleeding out right now. There's already about half an inch of blood on the whole little concrete pad that we were on the back of this little building. And man, it's summertime. You know what I mean? It's hot. Or springtime is still hot as shit. And so we come back there and we're like, wow, just start working. You know what I mean? So we just immediately start plugging holes and everything. It was a huge event, Probably 3 guys had already died. I mean, it was so much that 32 guys got medically evac'd out. So not just little ones here. They were like, we put them on Chinooks, 32 of them, like that level of. So that was like, and mass casualty defined as there's more wounded than there is folks that can help the wounded, and so of course, everybody went to work. It was, we just all went to work, plugging holes, tying stuff off, everybody, we were just all working. And then all these little, you experienced them too, all these little surreal things that would happen. So guys that were on the gurney that were bleeding a lot, and it was super hot outside, and dripping blood. And then there's this like stalagmite of coagulated blood, and then this little stalactite of coagulated blood hanging, just looking at, going, fuck is that? So it's just like the odd things is what always hang me up. And so we were constantly working for a few hours, and then it turned into, it should have been a selection event, as hard as that was, and almost passing out, chugging water. And so everything calmed down, so emotions aside, everything calmed down. And so we started cleaning up, right? Now it's to clean up the whole, it's just all the blood everywhere. Got the guys out, you know what I mean? And so we're cleaning it up. And then I just had this overwhelming, I started tripping out a little bit. Like, now the emotions, are welling up in me, man, of if I just didn't want their blood to soak into that fucking ground, in that place, So I was like, scooping it up, doing all this stuff, and nurse comes over, and she's, been around, seasoned nurse, and she sees I'm kind of got a little bit of something going on, and she's like, hey, what are you doing?
No matter where you're watching Shawn Ryan Show from, if you get anything out of this, please like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And if you're feeling extra generous, please leave us a review on Apple and Spotify podcasts.